Nathaniel Brandon once said in the Six Pillars of Self Esteem that in the inner courtroom of my mind, mine is the only judgment that counts. Self evaluation is imperative to grow as a person, and in this case, as a speaker. In this mini speech, I will be discussing how I felt before, during, and after the speech and compare that to the last speech, one strength and one weakness of my persuasive speech, and one goal that I have for the next speech, as well as the grade I would give my own persuasive speech. Before this speech, I felt a little nervous as it was kind of a longer speech and with little note cards and a lot of space to fill in. But however, I felt a lot better during this speech than I did the last speech because I practiced and I researched a lot more than I did last speech. During this speech, during this persuasive speech, I felt a little more anxious and I almost wanted to kind of like rush myself to be done just so I could like breathe again. and I don't really like speaking in front of people anyways, so that's where like my anxiety probably came from. But the difference during the speech was that I didn't feel as like connected to the information as I did during the speech about yoga, the personal statement speech. So it was kind of like harder to connect with the words that I was saying and like use hand gestures and movements to like show my passion behind it because with yoga it's easy for me to do that, but for something that I'm not as passionate about with like drinking, like it was harder to fill in that space and really like show passion. After the speech, I felt relieved and triumphant as I finished the speech. And the difference between that speech and this one is I felt like I had more pauses and mess ups than the last one, so I didn't feel as like triumphant and I didn't feel as like good about the speech as I did about this one. Um, One strength with the speech that I thought that I had was that I spoke with a loud and like assured tone, and I think that that helped to kind of first, like in the beginning, I established initial credibility my with my quote from a good scholarly source, and I like showed that I was close to the topic being going to USD. I did that initial credibility, and then with my like good delivery and my good tone, I like worked with the derived credibility, and then yeah, so I think that helps a lot with my speech. And then one weakness was my organization of my points was a little rough, and I could have used like clear transitions in between them, and I could have tied it all together better in the end. Like I said, I think I was kind of anxious, so I kind of rushed that. One goal for the next speech is that I would have organization along with the great voice and little to no screw up pauses because although my voice and my screw ups and pauses got better in this speech, I still need to work on my organization. And I would probably give myself an 85% because I covered all the requirements and had little to no mess ups and screw ups, just organizational mistakes and like idea based mistakes. So in this mini speech, I discussed how I felt before, during, and after the speech and compared that to last speech. I talked about my strengths and weaknesses in this speech, and I gave one goal and a grade for myself for this speech. Thank you for listening to me pick apart my own speaking and better myself as a speaker because self evaluation is very important.